Good morning, this is the Eager Beaver Show.
You are listening to a True North Eager Beaver Media Incorporated podcast. True North Eager Beaver podcasts are proudly brought to you by our founding sponsors, the Miss V Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, your source for science fiction, fantasy, and cozy mysteries featuring a broad diversity of characters. PsychicTarot.ca, book your tarot reading and unlock your spiritual journey. And the Pepper Master, hot pepper sauces made from farm-fresh ingredients to thrill your taste buds and expand your mind. Well, good morning and hello, kids and cubs, and welcome to Season 5 and episode number 684 of the Daily Beaver Morning Show. Always 100% Canadian, especially today. Today, recording day is Friday, the 4th of July. Happy Independence Day to all our American kids and cubs who join us on the show, either live with the DAMFAM or later on. We hope that you have a wonderful day, even though we know that things are a little... Well, just that little where you are. But we hope that you are surrounded by friends and family and are able to have the loveliest day possible under the circumstances, which is actually a very Canadian thing. By the way, I am your host, the Eager Beaver, pronouns he, him, hey, Mr. Beaver, eh? And with me and looking absolutely fabulous, because everybody's crazy about a sharp-dressed bear, is my good friend, Mr. Grizzly. A big thank you goes to our podcast founding sponsors, the Pepper Master, the Miss V Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, and PsychicTarot.ca. Mr. Grizzly, how is your mental health today, sir? Because you are looking fine.
Well, thank you very much, sir. My mental health is really good, really good. A little tired. I mean, I did get up at 4 a.m. here this morning to get ready because we had a meeting scheduled at 7, and they said, "Could we meet at 6:30?" And I'm like, "Yeah, no problem." They're like, "Actually, can we make it 6?" I'm like, "Yeah, okay, no problem." So I do have a limited amount of time on the show this morning because I do have to get to that meeting, which is down the hall. But it's going to be a very busy day for me today, which that's why I'm here. That's why I'm here to do my
Yes.
job.
And it was busy
Um,
yesterday, too.
and Really busy yesterday, and I do have it on. Let's see, how do I put this? They're very happy with what we've done.
Yay!
Very happy. And have told us so, and have suggested that we stick with them for the next 20 years. So,
Yes.
I mean, that's probably a tongue-in-cheek
Yes.
commentary, but they want us back next year for sure. So
Oh,
our goal is to secure this for the long term. So,
delightful.
yeah,
Oh, good. There's nothing like return business.
it's like
Yeah.
life,
Yeah, really.
But yeah, you put your efforts forward and you do your best, and hopefully that they like it. And so far, everybody's very, very happy with us. So I want to continue to keep them happy, which is why I said I'll have to duck out a little bit earlier than normal
Yep.
today. So
As we like to say on the show, you put in the work, you get the rewards. Doesn't always happen 100% of the time, but a solid chunk of the time enough to make it worth it.
it does. Yeah. Age, wisdom, experience, all contributing factors, right? And wisdom, not that I have any, but you know what I mean.
You have plenty. That's why I keep on asking you every day for your words of wisdom, sir.
Well,
Oh man, oh man, oh man, oh man. Oh, I'm so happy. Well, please give my love to Bridget and tell her I'm so happy and proud of her.
I will.
That's fantastic because I know she was concerned that that well, not concerned, but nervous as everybody does when they're working with a new client and hoping to make a good impression. And well, of course she did, right? Of course she did.
It's nervous
I
anticipation, right?
I have no doubt.
And I told him, "Look," oh, same thing. I said, "Look, you're gonna do fine. We'll do great. Don't worry." They love her. I've been able to provide some technical support and assistance in necessary moments that they were praising me for, and I'm like, "I was just doing my job."
Yeah, but
They're like, "No, no, what you do." I'm
she's
like,
good at
"Okay,
what
well,
she
thank you very
does.
much. I
Yep,
appreciate that, but I'm
she's good at
doing."
what she does. You're good at what you do. It makes a great combination.
It's all working out.
Ah,
It's all
I'm so
working out.
happy.
So,
I'm so
yeah.
happy.
Yeah. So limited time this morning, and I'm in a room that they'll be having a meeting later, a closed door meeting for the individuals involved. Again, I
Yes,
can't tell you what we're doing here. So
indeed, indeed. Mr.
it's important work,
Oh
though.
yes,
It's important work that what is taking place here.
yes,
You know this. You very well know this.
yes,
So,
yes. I helped just a tiny little bit, but
and
you guys did the most stuff.
well, here's the best part. Every single person that is involved here is fully on board with doing what needs to be done.
Yes.
'Cause they do recognize, like, every single one of them's like, "Oh, no, we recognize the brevity of the situation." Nobody's taking it for granted. Nobody's trying to push anything aside. Everybody is takes this job seriously. So this is good. This is good. I That's all I can say. I mean,
Yeah. Well, it's
I'm being vague, but that's I'm
yeah,
vague for a
no,
reason.
yeah,
I
it's
have to
important when
be.
all the players around the table can at least agree on the common objective and the importance of it.
Correct. And they do. That's the thing. And you know that this is a very important common achievement. So
Mhm, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Unlike a certain situation that we got going in Canada, where we have a one premier in particular um, who doesn't seem to agree on the importance of everybody working together and being on the same page. Oh, did I just let my petty slip out? Sorry.
maybe
But before we get into that,
fun.
Mr. Grizzly, you have something for us.
I just wanted to share something that sorry, sorry about that. I had some noise in the background that was throwing me off for a sec there, but I got it fixed now. I do have something that I wanted to share this morning, which is what it was something that brings one joy, right? Is that
Ah.
Marie Kondo sparks joy. This sparks joy. So I'm going to share this and put it on the screen. There's two photos. I'll show you the first photo, and there's an explainer, and then I'll show you the second photo. So here in the first photo, we see, you know him, you love him, Carlton, Nepean Carlton, member of Parliament, Bruce Fanjoy, with a pair of shoes, is spray painted gold and placed. Actually, I think it looks like two pairs of shoes by the looks of it. You can't really tell from the photo, but it says, "I thought I'd misplaced one of the pairs of shoes in the morning during my long campaign. I learned today what happened. My amazing campaign team had a plan for them, and today they came back better than ever. A reminder of the power of perseverance." And here's a picture of Bruce Fanjoy with his campaign team. And just to take a look at that picture of all these beautiful people who worked extra hard to help get this man into a position to oust Pierre Poilievre from his seat. And he did it. He did it. So we're better off for it.
Mhm.
Thank you, Cassie.
Yep. And another example of you put in the work, you get the rewards, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, had the pleasure of meeting Bruce over a memorial for somebody, but which is always sad. Somebody that he knew well and had a great deal of admiration for. Um, he just a super what's the word I'm looking for? Genuine person, absolutely dedicated to the riding and the constituents. And he said, "I need to win this because I need to build a better future for our riding." He was serious. He went after it and he won. So, full respect, full respect. I think you're muted there, sir.
No, it keeps turning itself on. My computer is doing weird things today. But no, absolutely, you're correct, Mr. Grizzly. Uh, listen, you know, we're seeing it in Alberta as well, the way he's treating people in Battle River Crowfoot. Basically, I'm in the parade because you've come here to see me, as opposed to I've come to see
Yeah, they
you.
need so at an event, I don't know if you saw the picture yesterday. He just walked up, set up a speaker and
I
microphone.
can hear that. Take that out.
Apparently,
Sorry.
he went to the Stampede event in the riding and set up a microphone and a couple of speakers and started to speak, and people were like, "What the hell is this?" Apparently, I don't have that. I haven't been able to confirm that, but those are the stories that I've been reading online. Whether or not that's entirely true is another question, but would it surprise you in the least bit?
No,
Wouldn't
not
surprise me.
particularly. He's the type of person that likes to insert himself, and it's about himself. So no,
Yeah, right.
that wouldn't surprise him. Yeah, there have been some pictures. He's standing in the field, and he's well, he seems to be rather far away from people as well.
Mm,
Like this whole part of
yeah,
campaigning is supposed to be about getting close to the people. Here, I've got an image for here today on that, and yeah, I'm not sure if it's showing yet. No, I'll share the screen.
yeah, there we go.
There we go.
Worst open mic night ever.
Um, I mean, right? And then, I saw this joke
So,
the other day, so I put it on there. Super excited about the Amateur Autopsy Club. I just joined. Tuesday is open mic night. Uh, but yeah, he seems like I don't know. Wouldn't you have moved your mic a little closer to the people? Your stand?
no, no, no. Remember, he doesn't want to be able to hear questions that people ask him. Remember that.
Again, it's like, give
He
me your
won't
vote.
listen.
Yeah, it's like, give me your vote,
Yeah.
but I don't want to get any of you on me. Ugh. Vibes.
Ew,
I,
I touched one. Ew.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just really weird. And the same thing, being in the back of the car. I would have been riding in the back of the car. I would have been walking the street in the parade and, going to the side and shaking some hands.
Yeah, no, sitting back of a Rolls Royce Corniche.
I,
Man of the people.
yeah. So there's a certain bedside manner, personal touch. And again, when you go to a smaller region, right? When Bonnie Critchley was talking to us about
Actually,
those special areas. I found out what they were. They're actually like three little areas, as she mentioned, like this, that are pretty big when you put them together. But there's only about 4,200 people living in them,
in those, yeah.
right? So I mean, you see Bonnie, the writing's huge, and you see her in her car a lot going from place to place. I mean, she's actually going to all the small places and knocking on doors and shaking hands and talking people. Whereas he's showing up at big crowd events, and you come to see me. And yes, we've seen some images of him, hugging people as he goes door to door knocking, along with Damien Couric, who's basically opening all the doors for him. Bonnie Crombie. Why keep on saying Bonnie Crombie?
Actually,
Bonnie Critchley keeps on opening her own doors. Right? I'm in a place like that, it would seem that the personal touch does matter, and being from there does matter, and being able to relate and having people know that, you're one of them does matter. And he just keeps on sending that message that, give me the seat because I want it, so that I can just go back to regularly scheduled programming of running for prime minister again, which is not a thing. But
no,
he's not.
in fact,
Yeah, I mean, if I was there, I mean, normally when you have a party leader running in your riding, it's a good thing. It's a bonus because you think, well, they got more sway. Maybe we will get a couple extra things for our riding. Our riding will get extra attention or something of the sort. But that's not what this guy's makeup is, right? He's not interested in that. I mean, if he was interested in that, I mean, after 20 years in Carleton, the voters would have brought him back. He's not interested in serving the constituents in his particular riding. He's got that ambition, baby. Look at his eyes. So,
And let's remember that the gaslighting attempt by certain individuals and certain political parties in this country continues to erupt at the social media level by suggesting the riding that he was in, which was expanded, as we well know, was expanded into a former liberal riding. I'm like, no, that is not correct. He actually expanded when the riding was expanded by Elections Canada, not the Liberal Party of Canada, despite what many people seem to believe, who fail to understand how the system works, expanded by Elections Canada to a largely conservative base. And he was soundly rejected by that largely conservative base.
Yes, it wasn't expanded into an urban area. It was expanded to a more rural area.
Correct, which is traditionally conservative based.
Yes. So,
but they just continue to regurgitate that. Oh, the Liberal Party. No, they did not.
They need to cope. They need to cope, and it has to be somebody else's fault, and it usually has to be someone on the left's fault for it to work, right? So, or the system, or some deep state thing, or whatever, right?
Oh, yes, yes.
Right. It's like, the system's working against us. The media hates us, so we need to cull the CBC. It's like, because we keep on getting bad press. It's like, you get bad press because you do bad shit. It's like, if you did positive things, you might still get some bad press, but you get less of it because there's always a press that's going to poo-poo on you no matter what. But like, it's not the quality of the press is not reflective of anyone's bias. It's reflective of what you put out there. I don't, but it always has to be someone else's fault, and it always has to be a big system because these people are nothing without the fight. Right? It's every day it's the meeting of the parish of Our Lady of the Perpetually Persecuted.
It's funny because it's absolutely true. It's absolutely true.
It's like, God, I mean, let's put it this way. If they were so persecuted, how are they raising that much money? How are they allowed to be raising that much money? You'd think that the rules would not allow that. But I guess nobody really fears them making so much money because they're so terrible at spending. I'm sorry. I shouldn't be laughing.
It's fine. Go ahead and laugh. It's funny. I get a kick out of it.
Oh, man.
I'm laughing, so.
Jeez. In news that will make you happy, Mr. Grizzly, because we know that you're a big labor rights person, so am I. There was history made in British Columbia. Uber drivers in Victoria were granted union certification, becoming the first group of gig workers in Canada to be certified under provincial labor laws, and thus creating precedent for everyone else that's in the gig industry now.
Excellent.
Yeah.
This is good news.
Yes. According to Akshay Kulkarni of CBC News, more than 500 Uber drivers in Victoria, BC have received union certification from the province's Labour Relations Board. The drivers will now look to bargain for collective rights with Uber, the ride-hailing giant that recently expanded across the province. In a statement, United Food and Commercial Workers Union, UFCW Canada, whose local 1518 will represent the drivers, says it's the first time gig workers in Canada have had a union certified. A union spokesperson said the Uber drivers will be the first in Canada to have a formal say in their workplace, and they will soon bring a number of concerns to a negotiating table. Quote, by and large, they include things like health and safety compensation, exploring whether or not there's a possibility of benefits, and form a regular part of a collective bargaining agreement, says Pablo Godoy, a UFC. Sorry, I was going to say UFC, which is a completely different thing. UFCW. Yes, UFCW, Canada's director for emerging sectors. Although when you're a gig workers negotiating against a big company, maybe having some UFC muscle backing you certainly wouldn't hurt. Godoy said the process was almost a year in the making, and it took a lot of work among drivers to talk to each other and sign union cards. The spokesperson noted that given Uber's model of having drivers sign themselves up for gig work, there was some unique wrinkles to having ride-hailing drivers become part of a union. In BC, if more than 55% of a workplace sign union cards, they automatically become certified with the BC Labour Relations Board under a single-step certification process. So that's interesting. Okay, so you can like bypass all of that stuff if you can actually get 55% of the workplace to sign on. So it does require a lot of work, but if you do it, things speed up. Godoy said that over 500 drivers signed union cards, and the union estimated there were around 600 or 700 drivers in Victoria at the time, so that's way over 55%.
Yeah.
Ultimately, the Labour Board was satisfied the union met the 55% threshold. Quote, the interesting and unique part of this industry is that given the barrier to entry being so low, we know that at any given moment there can be an influx of drivers onto the platform. And so we're looking forward to, in bargaining, understanding exactly the number of new members that the UFCW Canada is welcoming into the family. The union representative said that drivers want to see better provisions around health and safety, as well as more transparency around payments, app rating systems, and account deactivations. Godoy said the union hoped to begin bargaining with Uber in the next month or two and shortly thereafter have the union's first collective agreement. Last August, the province passed expanded gig worker regulations, which include a minimum wage of $20.88 an hour. I hope other provinces pick up these regulations. Wow, this is a good idea. Compensation coverage, workers' compensation coverage, and measures for pay transparency, though the wage only applied to time spent on jobs, not time spent waiting for jobs. At the time, Uber expressed concerns about the prospect of giving workers a minimum wage, but provincial officials did not back down from the regulation. The measures came after a number of high-profile cases involving threats to drivers and reports of them not being able to make ends meet. The rules meant gig
I'm just going to
workers.
stop right there for a second.
Yes?
Can we go back to
Yeah.
what Uber said about paying their drivers a minimum wage?
Yes?
Like you just read that, and in my head, I'm like, wait a minute. So they don't want to pay them the legal requirement by the province of a minimum wage because it's going to cut into our margin too much.
Yep. Pretty much.
Is that not
Pretty much.
if right? Think about that. They're like, well, that's going to be a profit margin if we actually pay you the legal requirement.
Yep. What they said back in the day, in the middle of an affordability crisis, a ride-sharing expense rate that is over 50% higher than comparable rate in California is unreasonable. Yeah, except the people in BC don't have access to the rate in California because they're looking for a ride in BC. And we encourage the government to reconsider the consequences for British Columbians who rely on rideshare and delivery, emailed Kirthana Rang, the Canadian communications lead for Uber. This was back in the month of, this was in, June 2024 when this first came up. So that was the position at the time. Skip the Decisions communications manager, Melanie Fatouris Richardson, had a similar response, calling the rules government over-regulation, arguing these measures will only put more pressure on Canadians, exacerbating the cost of living crisis across the country. Yes, it's terrible for the government to want people to be paid minimum wage because, that's what's going to contribute to the cost of living crisis,
Yes.
not paying. Yes,
Yes.
because not paying people a minimum wage doesn't contribute to the cost of living crisis.
I just
Are you
you,
real? Are
you
you
do
kidding me?
recognize. Yeah, you do recognize, folks, and I've said this before. If they could pay you nothing, they would,
Yep.
and it's evidenced by what they're doing.
Yep.
If they could pay
Uber.
you nothing, they would. It's called legalized slavery in the modern world. Pay you as little as possible to
Yep.
maximize their profit margin.
Yep.
It's modern
In
slavery.
Yep. In 2024, here it was said that Uber, a publicly traded company headquartered in California, reported a net income of more than $1 billion in US 2023, with CEO Dara, um, I cannot pronounce this last name, Khosrowshahi's earnings reported at 1 million base annual pay, up to 24 million after factoring stock options and other compensation following continued growth in 2022 and 2023. Skip the Dishes is headquartered in Winnipeg and is a subsidiary of the Dutch multinational Just Eat Takeaway, the largest food delivery company in Europe, valued at more than $2 billion, according to Reuters. So, the premier at the time, however, in an unrelated news conference, said, "These companies can suck it up. They'll be all right. They'll be fine." And that may be any of those companies, or it may be some entirely different company that starts up in this province. when he's talking, because he said to that the last part of the quote is him saying that British Columbians will use the service that is the most cost competitive. Premier Irby said he didn't want to see someone going further into debt because they have a card to pay for that isn't supported by their employer. Quote, which are these app-based companies that have $1 billion in revenue? Wow. See, again, that's an attitude I like. It says, no, we need to make
Yes.
sure people get paid at least $20.88 an hour here in British Columbia because the cost of living is such. Oh, that's gonna, that's gonna help. That's not gonna hurt us. That's not gonna help. That's gonna drive the economy down. Oh my God, what are we gonna do if we make a little bit less? So you can suck it up.
Well, it boils down to this. If your business is based on paying people as little as possible or nothing at all, your business model sucks.
Exactly.
I'm not a genius. I'm far from it. Not that smart. But I do know this. Your business model needs to be able to turn a profit while actually paying your employees a living wage. And if you can't do that, well,
You're in the
I'll
wrong business.
reserve the rude I'll reserve the rude thoughts I have in my head because I'm styled up this morning. So I'll try and keep everything above board and
Mhm. But it also means you're not good at business or you don't have a viable business.
yes, exactly. Well,
So,
this is PNC Bio. I suppose it must be pretty hard to only have 5 helicopters instead of 6, 3
mm,
private jets instead of 5. Won't someone think of the billionaires?
let's have a moment.
Yes,
Mm. All right.
won't
Oh,
someone think of the billionaires?
what would we do
I gotta
without
jump
them?
out. I gotta jump out in a couple of minutes here, sir,
All right,
but I
so
did want to share because I do have a meeting down the hall and I have to prepare for it. I do want to share a photo from last night. We had dinner at the legislature here in
oh,
Yellowknife, which is it's about a 5-minute walk from the hotel we're currently in. It's like right across the way. But I did. Oh, and now, well, there we go.
oh, lovely.
It's a beautiful building. Oh yeah, it's an
Yes.
absolutely beautiful building. I took a few photos of some stuff inside. There's one mace that was supplied, and this is a story behind this mace, which is made from local copper, wood, caribou, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. At a point in time later, I'll read this into the record so that we have a better idea of what it's all about. And when I do get back home, I'm going to work on putting together a video clip and stitching some stuff together of what I shot. I had a few different technical glitches and challenges when I was walking around with my gimbal and shooting some video, and the video was looking great. And then the gimbal just kept dropping off for some reason. And I figured because it's a Bluetooth connection and I was in a crowd of 3 to 5,000 people. They probably had Bluetooth stuff and they was getting cross. Anyway, it just kept dying. So it was frustrating, but nevertheless, we recorded a few different things and I'll stitch some video together and put like
Excellent.
a sizzle reel. So of the highlight of the trip and some photos that we managed to take along the way. But I do have to jump because I do have to get prepared for this meeting, and I don't like to be ill prepared, especially when money is involved, and it's Bridget's company. So I'm in the employ of
Yes.
Bridget right now. Never thought I'd say that, but yeah, here I am. I'm for my
Thoroughly
life.
modern woman. Thoroughly modern man.
What? Hell yeah. Oh, yeah. Hell yeah. Well, she's just, I said, look, just tell me where you need me to be and tell me what you need me to
Yep.
do. She's like, really? And I go,
Yeah.
well, of course, you're the boss. I'm
Yeah.
here to
Tell
serve.
me where to show up and what to wear. Right?
Yeah, that's what it boils down to in the end. Anyway, I do have to run, so everybody, oh, hey, congratulations,
Yes.
Frank. Good on you getting the job. That's good. That's good news. We like to hear good news. We like to speak good news. We like to say things about good people having good news for us. I do have to jump. I will see all of you on the other side sometime next week. I would assume Monday morning. Yeah, Monday morning. Fly back tomorrow. And until such time that we meet again, you take care, my friends.
Thank you, my
I'll see you
friend.
soon.
Give my best to Bridget. There you go, kits and cubs. The audio for those who had little issues with the audio, it's not you. It was the quality of the feed over there. Um, the Wi-Fi connection was not as good in that location as it was the other mornings that Mr. Grizzly was joining us. So if there were some audio issues, it's not your computer or anything. It was that was from our end in this particular case, and really from the connection feed that we had. But hopefully everybody was able to understand everything that Mr. Grizzly said. And yes, hoping that the work that they are doing, which is very important work. As I mentioned, I helped a tiny, tiny, tiny little bit when they were doing the proposal. So I'm aware of what it is. But I obviously can't say anything either. But it is very important work, and I'm so, so, so glad that it is going well, because it involves a lot of people talking to each other in order to be able to come to an agreement. And when you have that many people, there are a lot of egos and there are a lot of individual interests, and sometimes that can make for a slightly challenging or uphill experience, and especially when you're new to the players, because like I said this is a situation where they were looking for someone new to provide some of the services that were required. So that adds an extra layer. So if they do get repeat business with that portion being done, at least some of the players being familiar with each other again, things tend to go a little more smoothly the following time. And like I said, it seems that this time things went pretty smoothly already from the get-go. So looks like there are good things ahead for a lot of people here at the Beaver Lodge. And as you know, when Mr. Grizzly gets back, he'll soon be starting another job. So, oh, and by the way, we forgot to wish it to him before he left, but it's going to be Mr. Grizzly's birthday on the weekend. So, kids and cubs, please send the birthday vibes, and we'll have a belated birthday bash on Monday for Mr. Grizzly here at the Beaver Lodge. Okay, kids and cubs. So, we have a Kit Frankie who's got the job, and we have a Kit Hyper T 007 here who seems to be very, 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 very happy now that he's working at a new place, and that's good to see. So and good to hear. So yeah. I like it. I like it when good things happen to good people. I especially like it when good things happen to the members of the DAMFAM. So please do, if you have good news, if you do have good news happening to you, we definitely love to hear it. All right. So yes, the hair up and down game that we usually play in the morning here. Every now and then I ask people, the kids, before we go on live, will the hair be up or down? Most people guessed up today, and they upped right. And now we have, well, they guessed right, I should say, upped right. And we have a Kit Linda M putting in a request, wanting a man bun. I actually can do a man bun, but however, my hair. Even though it is long, it is really, really, really thin and fine. So normally, when you see people do a man bun, it's like big and puffy and all that kind of stuff. And mine just looks like once it all gets rolled up, it looks more like a buzzer on a game show that you just want to pop down and see if you get in first and win the prize. So yeah. Man bun doesn't actually it doesn't really work for me unless I have a day where my hair is all I get one of those days where the humidity makes my hair all poofy and fuzzy, and then it kind of looks like all the ones you see on the people who wear them well. But yeah, mine just looks like a small rolled up sausage, for lack of a better word. But I can make one. If I want to make one, really, it's not so much a man bun. I have to sort of like loop the ponytail in so that it doesn't go all the way through, and then spread it to sort of like give it some volume. But that's not exactly man bun. I don't know what the word for that is, but it's not exactly that. So yeah, it's not exactly necessarily in my repertoire. And yes, a lot of kits and cubs there commenting on the fashion. Clearly, I showed up underdressed. Yeah, Mr. Grizzly really does clean up very nice. He is, I keep on joking that Mr. Grizzly is hopelessly heterosexual like this, but if there was any chance that he might not be, it would come from his fashion sense because he's got style. Yeah, absolutely, very dapper. And in a not just in a business suit as well. Whether it's whether it's day wear or evening wear, Mr. Grizzly has a very, very excellent sense of fashion. So there you go. All right, kits and cubs. There is absolutely. Oh, sorry. Here we have Kit P and Sio, Kit P and C Bio in the chat saying, "Did I miss something important? Return business? Are you guys getting paid now? Congratulations." No, not us. Unfortunately, here as part of the show, but Mademoiselle Fox's company, Rhetorica, got a decent contract this time around, and it looks like it was executed well enough that there will be a repeat business for her from the client that she is providing service to today and has been over the course of the week. So yes, it would be if it was us, you would have heard the scream from here where you live the second we got the contract. But hey, first Mademoiselle Fox, and then who knows, maybe us. You never know. Things can happen. By the way, we've reached a little bit of a milestone today, kids and cubs. If you're watching live on the subscriber count, we have now officially hit 19,000 subscribers on our show. So thank you very much for the new people who have joined. We hope that you love our product and that you stay with us for a while. And we are hoping to get to 20,000 soon enough. We're making a little push for that. So any help that you can give us in getting the word out to get there would be absolutely appreciated. And we thank you because we know you always help. I mean, being helpful is part of being part of the DAMFAM. It's just the quality that brings us together. All right, kids and cubs. Well, it is the 4th of July, as you know, and there are some interesting things going on in Canada for the 4th of July. There's a certain premier who unfortunately, does not seem to, for a while now, has been sending a very clear message that she has absolutely no intention of rowing in the same direction as the rest of the team. We've seen Mrs. Smith go to Washington a couple of times and try to get closer to President Donald Trump in certain ways. We know that her focus really is oil. I mean, it's about the only thing that she talks about. We've seen her in interview being asked when she was when they were proposing projects allegedly of national importance that her basic point of view when asked, if not oil, what else would there be? She didn't have anything else. It's oil. It's just oil. That's the only thing. And, making statements such like, oil is the single most thing that adds the biggest anything to the economy. And therefore, if it's not oil, then, what's the point? And, in fairness, oil and, the activity it generates when it is doing well does generate a lot of benefit for the Canadian economy. Not as much as she says, but a lot and not a negligible amount. We have to acknowledge that. But that's only true when oil is doing well. I recently watched a video by Claus Kellerman, which I think some of the kits turned me on to. He has some very good analysis on his channel. I highly recommend it. Claus Kellerman POV is the channel. But he was looking at prime ministers over the course of the years and which ones had the better track records on the economy. And while he was looking strictly at financial data and he was looking at GDP numbers, there were three particular times over the last little while when uh, GDP decreased year over year rather than increased. And three of those times happened to coincide with times where the price of oil plummeted. Just happened to coincide, the most recent one being during COVID, when, if you remember, because of all the supply shocks and the ability to transport stuff and the ability to store stuff, that oil in Alberta was basically selling at $0 or even at negative dollars. They had to pay people to take barrels of oil in order to be able to store them because they needed to keep pumping it because, s- when you're trying to stop pumping at an oil, uh, you know, at an oil site, you can't just flip a switch. It takes a couple of days, right? You remember when we were talking about the wildfire season, there was some oil sites that shut down, like really, really early, even though the fire was still a certain amount away, because you didn't want to wait until the fire was at your doorstep in order to do that. Number one, it's oil. And, it does take a long time. It takes a certain number of days, and it's rather involved to stop production. And it's also as involved to restart production. So they were trying to keep production going so they didn't have to go through that. But that meant, producing at a loss and having to find people and places to store the inventory at the time. So, oil was at a negative at that point. Um, But she's got nothing else but that when it comes to that. Now, the thing with Danielle Smith, and I'm going to show you something right here, is there's also a push for separation within the province of Alberta. There's a movement for that. And Danielle Smith, even though she keeps on claiming she's wants a united Canada, right? She's her Sovereignty Act has some like within a united Canada type thing. uh, Jargon all around it. She's trying to play both sides here, and she wants more moderate conservatives who have a bigger attachment to Canada than I mean, if they I don't necessarily have a bigger attachment. I'm sure they're attached to Alberta, but if they had to choose Alberta alone or Alberta within Canada, would choose Alberta within Canada. Um, tries to say that she doesn't support separation, but she keeps on seeming to I've gone to the Cirque du Soleil school of contortion and bending over backwards in order to accommodate those who would like to make that dream a reality. So, right here, we have Danielle Smith on Canada talking, uh, well, presenting the public face that she wishes to show. In this statement here, let's see if I can make it a little bigger. There we go. So that you can see it at home. Canada Day is more than a celebration of 150 years of Confederation. It's a reminder of who we are, where we come from, the people who came before us, and the values that define us. Here in Alberta, those values run deep. We take care of each other, stand up for what is right, and never back down from a challenge, no matter how daunting. Yeah, remember those words. Together, we build strong communities where people from all backgrounds can thrive. We believe in freedom, fairness, and opportunity for all. Alberta helps power, feed, and drive this country forward. From our energy and agriculture to our innovation and entrepreneurship, Alberta is a driving force for good in a united and prosperous Canada. Happy Canada Day. And you see her there in the red and white, posing with a whole bunch of people. Um, I'm sorry, I'm going to be petty, pretending she is pro Canada because I have not seen much evidence of that. But they're trying to play from the base, of course, right? And there's a couple of lines in there that was interesting because she says, together we build strong communities where people from all backgrounds can thrive. But if you've been following the socials, well, a couple of days ago, she was granting an interview to Crybaby Caillou, Interesting that she sat for an interview with someone she indirectly pays. Okay. I'm sure it was hard hitting, um, and asked all the tough questions, in which, well, she was blaming stuff on immigrants. Yeah, but don't worry, everyone's welcome in Alberta. And of course, we don't back down in face of a challenge that is daunting. Well, yeah, definitely. That's something for Danielle Smith. Clearly, she never backs down. And yesterday, she proved that by bailing up to a microphone and a camera once again and making some pronouncements that she is going forward with an Alberta police services that was you know, sort of getting rid of the RCMP there to have a provincial service. And yeah, even though Albertans have made it very, 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 clear, very clear that they don't want this, as was the case for coal mining. A lot of people told them that they don't want that on the side of a mountain, but she's pushing forward anyway. And there's the pension plan that Albertans, again, have told her no. And she's pushing forward with that anyway. 10% of Albertans said they want it. And she's considering that a mandate. She actually had a tweet the other day. Let's talk about an Alberta pension plan after trying to hide for 2 years the results of the survey that let her know it was unpopular. Let's talk about the thing that you've told me you don't want me to talk about anymore. So she's a human bulldozer. She doesn't understand that no means no. Might explain why it is that she likes Donald Trump so much. Oh, did I say that in my outside voice? Sorry. From where I sit and I'm watching this, this is an abusive relationship. It's a totally an abusive relationship. So yeah, people tell her no. She puts her head down and bulldozes and does it anyway. She perpetually lies. Doesn't matter. The Breakdown Alberta had this great the other day about Danielle Smith, and she was making some statements. She had a press conference here. I'm going to present a little clip of it for you here because it's a moment that's actually a little funny if you haven't seen it. Um, um, there's a guy in the background standing next, well, in the frame. At some point, I really can't explain it. You basically just have to see it. I can't remember who this person's name is. Unfortunately, I wish I could say that is the case. But she's being asked a question with regard to the corrupt care scandal, with regard to Sam Raish and all of that. And she's been asked a question, and she may not be being sorry. I'm sorry. This keeps on happening to me for some reason. Uh, there we go. Volume. She's answering this question, and watch the answer. Of course, is a lie because she reflexively lies. But like I said, watch the guy behind her. See what happens as she's answering. And tell me what you think. You think this person thinks a lot of things there of her answer. Cubs, I'm sorry for the here. My computer seems to be working a little more slowly, so I need to check that things are actually on the screen, and they are. So there you go. All right. Turn on the volume and enjoy this.
Is we've seen that your former chief of staff, Marshall Smith, was living in a house owned by Sam Marish's sister. People in your office were frequently going to hockey games. There's allegations that Mr. Smith was advocating on behalf of private companies tied to Mr. Marish. What was your relationship with Mr. Marish?
I saw him socially a couple of times, and the same thing that I have with many people who seek to have a relationship with our government. I have formal meetings with them, sometimes meet with them one-on-one, but I would say that it was a very professional relationship.
And when was the last time that you met with him?
I don't know, over a year ago.
Okay, thank you very much.
I would like a fact check, please, on the over a year ago. But you see the guy, right? He's just like, oh, they're asking about this. Oh, look, there's something on the ground here that's uneven. I think I'll take a step. Oh, they're asking more about this. I think I'll take another little step until he wasn't in frame anymore. He did not want to be on scene on camera as she was answering this question. It's like, oh, nope. I need to get out of here. So yeah, Danielle Smith has a bit of a sticky relationship with the truth. Now, according to our friends at the Breakdown, when it comes to this specifically, this is Nate Pike, of course, who says last year, Last Door Recovery, who have played an integral role in bringing Marshall Smith's vision for, quote, the Alberta model, held a sober stampede. Trooper was there, the band. Who else was there? Glad you asked. Jason Nixon, Dan Williams, Danielle Smith, Last Door Director of Community Development, Giuseppe Ganci. And hey, that dude on the left sure looks like Danielle Smith's former chief of staff. We kept the date on this photo. And here we go, kids and cubs. Since we're doing this and since there are some photos, well, let's show them to you. So yes, go Jason Nixon, Dan Williams, Danielle Smith, Last Door Director of Community Development, Giuseppe Ganci, all in that photo. And wow, yeah, that dude on the left sure looks like Danielle Smith's former chief of staff. It does. There she is again. So all of these power people were at last year's Sober Stampede on July 13th, but it appears another powerful figure came down from Edmonton for the day because that black shirt, black hat sure looks like Sam Raish. But that's Big Nixon, not Smith. Interesting. We would need a picture of Smith, though, right, to demonstrate that she can't truth? Hey, what's this here? Looks like Danielle Smith, Marshall Smith, Giuseppe Ganci, and Sam Raish having a good old chat on July 13th, 2024, less than a year ago. But one might think that given all of the media attention on this file, Smith would at least try to be accurate when she makes public statements about this file. But again, Danielle Smith can't true on demand. So, Danielle Smith cannot true on demand. She doesn't accept an answer. She said in the legislature when she stomped her little foot, when people started making allegations of her husband and other things like that, that she wants the slander to stop. And another moment where she stomped her little foot and said, I will not be silenced. So it doesn't matter how many times you tell her no. If Danielle wants something, Danielle wants something. And she just keeps pushing and pushing and pushing and pushing until she wears you down or just imposes it on you while trying to pretend, of course, that she's doing things for the best interest of Albertans. Or she's allowing coal mining because we need to avoid a $14 billion lawsuit. Or, or, or whatever, right? She just lies, reflexively lies. Well, today is the 4th of July, and today, Danielle Smith is going to belly up to a microphone again and camera and tell Albertans what are the rules for these citizen activated referenda. Now, if you remember on a previous show, we talked about Tom Lukasik. Used to be Deputy Premier of Alberta. Definitely a conservative. More of a progressive conservative, but a conservative. And how he kind of outsmarted the Alberta Prosperity Project because he filed paperwork for one of these citizen actions and, paid his fee and, well, basically wrestled the narrative away from the separatists by putting a referendum question on the ballot. Well, still not on the ballot yet, but putting forward a referendum question that is positive rather than negative. So the question is not asking whether or not Alberta should separate from Canada, but basically whether or not Alberta should remain in Canada, which flips the narrative, of course, and takes control of the narrative. So he's the one setting the agenda and not them, which is a very, very, very clever move. Now, as we mentioned on the show as well, you've got to watch out for Danielle Smith because, she just passed all these new rules in a certain way that would make it much easier for that separatist movement to be able to do that. I believe things like the number of signatures and the number of days required to get them have changed. I would assume that in this case it's fewer signatures. Well, it is fewer signatures. I don't have to assume that, and more days. So there used to be a rule under these ballot initiative things that if you got X number amount of signatures, I think is like 280,000 or 293,000. I keep on reading different numbers and hearing different numbers over 90 days, then it can get on the ballot. But now, when the separatists started talking, because, separatism is not as popular in Alberta as public opinion polls have been showing us, suddenly that went down to 200,000 and they have 120 days. So they need fewer signatures and they get basically 1/3 more of the time than they had originally in order to be able to secure them. Because, they would be harder to find. Now, again, not sure yet whether or not those signatures have to be spread across a certain amount of electoral districts and all that type of stuff. And I don't know what new rules she is going to and how they're going to affect things that she's going to come out with today. But there was a very, very, very interesting interview with Tom Lukasik on CTV Alberta that I have for you today. And I'm going to play it for you because, why not hear from the person who is spearheading this himself. I mean, if you want to get information about the motives of the person who wants to put this on the ballot, then why not just go to the person who wants to put this on the ballot? Now, Tom Lukasik is someone that we would like to get on the show, and it's, as I mentioned before on the show, we were blocked at one point, so we couldn't reach out to him. I believe it was Kit Hyper T007 who wrote something to, at least this is what I think happened, wrote something on Mr. Lukasik's Twitter feed, and we found ourselves unblocked. And we have been sharing some of his content because this is news that needs to be shared, and he is doing the right thing, and he's doing it in the right way, and we support that. So hopefully we want to reach out to him and invite him to the show. Not sure whether or not there's enough trust there yet between us, because clearly, we are not a right of center show. So sometimes people are a little more trepidatious. And of course, back in the day, because there were two True Norths, thankfully they changed their name to Juno. Sometimes we got confused with them, and sometimes people would just, we'd invite them for stuff and we'd get blocked immediately. And so, oh, must be the other True North. So that could have been at the heart of it as well. But we are, at least there's an open line of communication, and we will be attempting to reach out to him to try to have him on the show so that we can learn more about it. But until then, we do have this, and I'm going to present this to you because it is a very compelling interview, and you will see that this is unlike the other movements. This is not a man that's prone to hyperbole or exaggeration or showmanship. He's someone who sees something that's not right and has decided democracy is something that you do. A bit like Bonnie Critchley, if not me, who? So he filed the paperwork, paid the money, and now he's at the head of this movement. So let's hear what he has to say.
With Michael Higgins.
Welcome to Alberta Prime Time. Ahead tonight, our politics panel on talk of reviving Alberta's PC party. But first, cleared to proceed.
I gather he submitted it under the old rules, so I think he needs 293,000 signatures. So I'll wait and see if he's able to accomplish that.
All right, kits and cubs, just gonna stop that right there. As you see, Danielle Smith already trying to make the case for, there are old rules and new rules, and at the time he submitted it, I think it was the new old rules that applied. So I think for him, it's going to have to be harder. It's already putting it out there into the public sphere. Now, whether or not that's her decision is up for debate, as you will see in this interview.
The Premier responding to reporter questions on signing or endorsing Thomas Lukasik's pro-Canada petition, a citizen-led referendum application approved by Alberta's Chief Electoral Officer. The proposed question: do you agree that Alberta should remain in Canada? And the former MLA and Cabinet Minister, Deputy Premier, joins us now to discuss the Canadian petition. Mr. Lukasik, welcome back.
Thank you for having me.
Straightforward first up question. Are you already collecting signatures?
No, we're not. There's a process in place. The Chief Electoral Officer now has to decide whether the old rules or the rules proposed by Danielle Smith will apply to me. He will make that decision, and then we will take it under consideration whether we agree with it or not. And then I have 30 days to appoint a Chief Financial Officer. The moment I appoint Chief Financial Officer, the clock starts ticking for collecting signatures, but we don't know which clock yet, whether it'll be the 90-day clock under the old rules or the 120-day clock created for separatists.
Okay, so how much on this July 4th implementation of the new legislation?
Well,
and other questions that you must need to have answered.
Well, it's really technicality. The Premier, oddly enough, chose American Independence Day to proclaim her pro-separatist legislation, but it just really changes the rules on how many signatures we have to get. And I have to tell you, judging by the response of Canadians living in Alberta, we find that we will definitely surpass the minimum requirement, no matter which rules apply. It's always nice to have more time, 120 days to 90 days, but I think we'll be fine within 90 days. The main change, actually, between the two rules is financial, collecting donations to cover the expenses associated. Under the old rules, actually, it is pretty stringent, very well regulated, which is good. what I would prefer. Under the new rules, when Danielle Smith was creating this legislation for separatists, she basically opened the doors for financial collection. So we have to wait for that as well.
Okay, well, and we heard off the top the clip of the Premier, and that was in response to a reporter question of whether or not she signed your petition or endorse your petition. Premier also said that she would let the various processes play out.
Yeah.
So how do you interpret that?
Well, the Premier is wrong on 2 points. Number one, she doesn't get to speak or determine which rules apply. That is up to an independent officer of the Legislative of Alberta, the Chief Electoral Commissioner. He will make that decision, not the Premier. Second of all, there are no processes. There is a process. My application was the first application filed. It was approved, and the law is clear. There cannot be two competing questions. There cannot be two competing plebiscites or referenda. So this is the application. This is the process that's going forward. For reasons unknown to me, those who are pro-separation didn't file their application on time. So there will be a process and no more than that.
The Premier, as we know, is leading Alberta Next tour, which is set to get underway in just a couple of weeks' time. Is that a conversation that you take your petition to if it's ready to roll by that point?
Well, we will bring facts to the table. You know, the reason I filed, there are a number of reasons why I did what I did, but I firmly believe that if we are going to have a discussion about the future of Canada, because this is not only about Alberta, this is actually the future of Canada, that conversation must be led by Canadians who actually care about the well-being of Canada as a whole, and not separatists. But more importantly, this conversation has to be based on facts, on laws, on economic data, and not on disinformation. The Premier's panel, and I have a lot of respect for a few members of that panel, and I'm not sure why I'd be on that panel, because this web-based survey that she put out is anything but survey. And you know, when I lived in totalitarian Poland, there was a little joke going around. You know, I have two pairs of pajamas, checkered one and striped one. I'm taking the checkered one. Which one do you want? And that's exactly the analogy. It is not polling. It is leading Albertans towards certain answers. We won't have any part of that. We will lay out the facts, and I am certain that vast majority of Albertans will not consider separation in any shape or form.
So how much of a fight are you bracing for then from those who are on the pro-separatist side? What kind of conversation do you envision evolving here?
Well, I think the biggest obstacle will be our Premier and her government. You know, she devised this term, sovereign Alberta within United Canada, which is really a word salad. It means nothing. It's like me telling you I am single within the confines of my marriage. But she's trying to be fueling the separatist movement by passing legislation to make things easier for them. Wink, wink. You know, I'm behind you. I'm choosing American Independence Day to proclaim this act for you. But at the same time, she's saying, well, no, I'm not a separatist. My petition will force her and her caucus to finally get off the fence and make a decision, which the Premier is not willing to answer at this particular time. I don't anticipate that she will sign my petition, although if she truly is a loyal Canadian, if she lives up to the oath that she swore both as an MLA and as a cabinet minister, she should sign this petition. But my hopes are not high for that.
Maybe to close the conversation, and it's a separate topic, but to a degree, it's woven into your petition initiative. Your time in government was as a progressive conservative.
Correct.
There are two independent MLAs now who were expelled from the UCP caucus who are looking to revive the PC brand. How does that sit with you?
You know, good for them, because I think it's good for democracy. I don't like the fact that we really have only two viable parties right now, NDP and UCP. It reminds me sort of American politics. The more viable parties you have that offer different ideas, different perspectives, is better for democracy and for the electorate. So good on them. I'm not sure how successful they will be in reviving the party to the point where it can at least become an opposition or one day form government. But building a party is a difficult process. But what it will do is create a lot of additional danger for Danielle Smith, because she already has the Republican Party of Alberta, which is sort of nipping at her from the far right and taking away support there. I imagine that this Progressive Conservative Party, which will be sort of a moderate center-right party, will be stealing away support from her left side of her caucus. And let's bear in mind that Danielle Smith has a very small majority at this point in time. She has openly declared separatist MLAs and cabinet ministers in her caucus. And many of her Calgary MLAs won the last election only by a handful of votes. If she loses 5 to 7% of support on either end, she is in political trouble.
All right. Mr. Lukazik, always good to hear from you. Kindly for coming in again today.
Thank you for having me.
And there you have it, kids and cubs. So sorry it's taking me a long time to come back onto the screen, kids and cubs. Like I said, the computer is doing some tricky things today. There you go. So there we go. Thomas Lukazik definitely laying it out there. Calm, reasonable, measured. I do not know where I've disappeared to. Oh boy, it's a weird day here at the Beaver Lodge. Apologies for that, kids and cubs. I really don't know why this is happening. But calm, reasonable, measured, right? Not shouting, not saying ridiculous things, not saying clickbait inflammatory things, just laying it out there very plainly. There's a couple of very interesting comments there. He referred to a consultation that Danielle Smith is doing. She has the Alberta Next series of town halls, I guess, going along. But she had released a survey for all intents and purposes, but everybody that's gone to the survey, there's some video preceding question, and the video is rife with misrepresentation. And then they're asked questions, but they're asked questions in such a way that nobody can actually express displeasure or opposition to what is being proposed. So, it would be sort of like if you were asked, would you like some pie? And you had 4 options. Yeah, damn, absolutely, pie. And then the other one would be, oh, yeah, I like pie. Like this. My favorite is cherry. And then the third option would be, oh, yes, pie is good. And then the final one being, well, if I don't eat too much, I might like some pie. But the option of, no, I would not like pie, I would prefer cake, is not there. So it's a series of questions that only allow you to agree or express support for what Danielle Smith wants to do. Because Danielle Smith only hears what she wants to hear, right? You could go up to Danielle Smith and say, you're pretty dumb. And she would leave that conversation and go, oh, well, thank you for saying I'm pretty. Right? She only hears what she wants to hear. And she only wants to hear. It's not only that she only hears what she wants to hear, she only hears what she only wants to hear what she wants to hear. Because you don't put out a survey like that if you're actually interested in what the people have to say. Right? So this is really just ticking off a public consultation box. Because the only people she wants in the room are people who already agree with her. And then there's been other moments where people have noticed that where she's going when she's talking to people, there's only an Albertan flag and there's no Canadian flag anywhere around. So little signs like that this is not an honest process. When she's talking about, he's talking about her trying to play out of both sides or speak from both faces, on both sides of her mouth. Canada within a sovereign Alberta within a united Canada, which he said basically, and I love that line, it's like saying I'm single within the confines of my marriage. See how that works out for you in real life, right? And then mentioning, of course, the push for an Alberta progressive conservative party again. And again, talking about the fact that there's an Alberta Republican Party and that there seems to be provincially a splintering of the factions on the right, right? Because this UCP, United Conservative Party, that Jason Kenney tried to force together, took various factions who agreed for some time that they would all work together to claim power. But all the various factions within this movement hate each other. And now it is starting to fray, right? So on the right side, you have the Alberta Republican Party that definitely wants to take Alberta out of Canada, while Danielle Smith is trying to pretend or present a face that she would still like Alberta to remain in Canada, but doesn't seem to be, other than the words, doesn't seem to be doing much to help that happen. And to the center of her, well, Peter Guthrie, the former infrastructure minister, who stood up to her and was ejected from caucus. And Scott Sinclair, another person who was expelled from the UCP. Well, they're sitting as independent MLAs, and according to Jason Markusoff here at CBC, they are pushing a bid to resurrect the old party band of Peter Lahaide and Ralph Klein. Peter Guthrie and Scott Sinclair are petitioning to re-register the Progressive Conservative Association of Alberta, the party that governed Alberta from 1971 to 2015 before it merged the Wild Rose Party to form the United Conservative Party late last decade. They are pitching the PCs as another conservative option, but one that's in the political middle between Premier Danielle Smith's governing party and the left-of-center NDP. Quote, "We're filling a void where people feel like they have where they have no home politically right now," Sinclair told CBC News in an interview on Wednesday. Quote, "The parties in the province have taken it too far one way or another, and we just don't have a mainstream party that, in Pete and my belief, really form a snapshot of what Albertans are looking for, which is a government that is balanced and has a steady hand. Their party would appeal to those who dislike how separatist-friendly Smith has made the UCP in his view, but also want restrained government spending," said Guthrie, the former infrastructure minister and unofficial leader of the Revival PCs. He termed their would-be party, quote, "fiscally responsible and socially reliable." After the UCP formed in 2017, they formally deregistered the former Wild Rose and Tory parties in early 2020. Guthrie said a friend of a friend approached the two independent MLAs and said an unnamed woman has reserved the PC with Elections Alberta. She was offering it to the pair. Now, to formally register the PC party, Guthrie and Sinclair have until November to collect at least 8,819 signatures on a petition representing 0.3% of the provincial voting population. They plan to spend the time canvassing in their own ridings and touring Alberta's summer festivals and fall and events, with the hope of being able to launch their party this fall. But they've just begun the process. Their fledgling party doesn't even have its website up yet. Until earlier this year, neither politician had publicly voiced any doubts about Smith's UCP until each found himself outside of it for different reasons. Guthrie quit cabinet in protest in February amid the developing controversy over procurement practices at Alberta Health Services. In April, his demands for public inquiry into the AHS saga prompted the United Conservatives to expel him from caucus because nothing says everything that we've done is absolutely above board, like expelling someone who resigned from cabinet but remained in caucus and is demanding a public inquiry into something that you are telling everybody you have done nothing wrong about. Because people who don't have things to hide usually kick people out of their parties when they ask, "Prove it." Okay. Sinclair, the member for Lesser Slave Lake, was ousted from the UCP caucus in March after he publicly criticized the provincial budget for spending too heavily in Edmonton and Calgary at the expense of rural Alberta. Now, in that case, objecting to the budget, this is grounds for a party to expel, especially if you vote against it. I'm not sure if he got to the point where he voted against it. But still, oppose Danielle, get to the boot. Announcing the PC push on Real Talk with Ryan Jesperson, Sinclair and Smith is, quote, "almost like a miniature version of Donald Trump in Alberta. Just so many controversial things that are radical and extreme happening almost on a daily or weekly basis." Smith's push to dismantle Alberta Health Services showed that her government is, quote, more about disruption than solutions. The Premier was asked Wednesday about the return of the PCs at an unrelated news conference. She referred to the 2015 election when the right-leaning PCs in Wildrose combined for more than 50% of the vote, but Rachel Notley's NDP won by eking out a plurality. Quote, "We saw that when the movement splits, the NDP win, and I think that is where the majority of Conservative voters are," she said. It's happened once in 50-something years. Once. In a recent by-election in Olds Didsbury Three Hills, UCP candidate Tara Sawyer urged rural voters against splitting the right-of-centre vote. The Separatist Republican Party of Alberta finished a distant third with less than 18% of the vote, behind both the UCP and NDP. The Premier added that her UCP will make our case in the next election no matter who ends up being on the ballot. Smith also questioned whether the PC Association name could legally return because elections law restricts reusing the name of a predecessor to a merged party like the UCP. An Elections Alberta spokesperson wrote in an email to CBC News that the chief electoral officer would make a final determination on a party's proposed name during the registration process. Guthrie said the new PCs could appeal not only to anti-separatist United Conservative voters tired of controversies, but also lapsed Tory voters who had voted for the NDP in recent contests. NDP leader Naheed Nenshi said the move by Guthrie and Sinclair signals further shakiness within Smith's Conservative coalition and added that, quote, New Democrats remain the only choice for positive change for our province. In the PC's absence, Alberta politics has recently evolved into a two-party binary. Only the UCP and NDP have won seats in the last two elections, and those parties combined to capture 96.6% of the vote in the 2023 contest, leaving only a sliver of the electoral pie for smaller parties, including the centrist Alberta Party and two parties that use the Wild Rose brand. So there you have it. So Danielle has a lot of stuff going on. And with regard to her wanting to impose the police force, that is also something about which she said in the past that she would subject to a referendum, but now she's just pushing ahead unilaterally on her own because the people said they don't want it. So now she doesn't want to put it to the referendum test. So we will see later what it is, the announcement that she has for Albertans, and and whatever she says about Albertans, obviously, there's a counter narrative about what she's saying against Ottawa and Canadians, specifically there, because again, Danielle Smith does not exist without the fight, right? She's not a real entity unless she's speaking in terms of Ottawa or Canada or Canadians in some way oppressing her and her desires and her moves. So we'll see what it is that she's going to drop on us later today, and then compare that and contrast that to her Canada Day message when you get it, where she was there and talking about Canada being this wonderful place and everyone's welcome and all of this kind of stuff, and a strong Alberta within a united Canada, and then compare what she's going to say today to that. Because I have a feeling it's not going to line up particularly well, and that the juxtaposition of those two positions will be extremely revealing. In other news, kits and cubs, we've talked a lot over the past few days about the digital services tax and it being basically rescinded as part of the negotiations with the United States. We've seen in this instance that the United States rushed to a microphone and said Canada caved, which is a very interesting move to do during a negotiation, to take little developments happening along the way, which are supposed to be quiet because you don't negotiate in public, and holding them up as wins. And her going to the microphone and saying that clearly was for domestic purposes only, right? Clearly also probably intended to try to irritate us, but that was really for the domestic audience in the United States because he promised 90 deals in 90 days. And well, that's really not going to happen. So to say, our strong leader got Canada to cave, yay, the negotiation is still going on. Meanwhile, in Canada, a lot of people are asking, well, what did we get for that? Because Mark Carney is not negotiating in public and not saying what he got for that or if he got anything for that. So we don't know. But you would figure that if the United States is letting things leak and claiming victories already, maybe things aren't going as well for it as it would like. The other day we had Ambassador Fuckface, pardon, Peter Hoekstra, sorry, on Power and Politics, again, making some ridiculous statements. And one of them sort of being, that 51st state stuff is flattery, and like this, he assumes that we're flattered by that or something like that, and we're not at all. And suggesting that because this is the Trump Republican theory, of course, and they're not their theory, but their modus operandi. Well, laws are just things that a leader can ignore if he really wants to when it comes to the issue of supply management. Because it seems that now that the digital services tax is no longer on the table, supply management is the next big irritant that they're probably going to try and come for. There is a bit of a tricky situation with that, however, because the Bloc Québécois specifically has been working very hard to protect supply management. And supply management is also something that affects British Columbia, even though we always hear in terms of Quebec, it affects British Columbia as well. But with regard to Quebec, it's mostly about dairy, right? And because dairy farms in Quebec are much smaller operations than dairy farms in the United States, right? It's not these, there are plenty of smaller farms and smaller farmers rather than these big sort of conglomerate farms that have like so many cows or so many chickens that can lay so many eggs that it's just, it can make your head spin. So supply management was one of those things that kept on coming up throughout the election, and the Prime Minister of Canada kept on insisting was a red line that he would not cross. Supply management's not on the table. And Yves-François Blanchet kept on trying to encourage the Prime Minister to, well, if you mean that, why don't you put it in writing and let's make a law about it? And, well, before Parliament rose for the summer, there was a bill, Bill C-202, that was passed and did receive consent. Sorry, again, this computer's not working again. I apologize for the noise. Did receive royal assent. And this is a bill that the Bloc Québécois has been trying to get through the House for 6 years. And it's a bill that protects supply management, because in previous deals, even though Canada said that they would protect supply management, and they did as an overall concept, we still haven't. They still took little slivers off here and there in negotiations, and this one sort of binds the government, or at least that's the intent, to not being able to do that in future trade negotiations. Now, some people presented that, have been talking about that as, well, Canada is now negotiating with one hand tied behind its back. And it's like, well, I'm not sure that's necessarily the case. Every country has some things that they are not willing to negotiate at all, right? One of the things that Canada is not willing to negotiate as well is the official bilingualism. There's another push in the United States to try to get us to say, well, why does everything have to have both languages? Why does your box of cornflakes have to have stuff in English and French? We don't do French. Just have the box in English. That's better for trade. Yeah, it might be better for trade, yes, and it's simpler to only have to print in one language, not have things translated, and to have to try and find places on the box to put more than one language. But if you've ever been to Europe, a lot of things have many languages on them, way more than two. This is not a particularly onerous thing and not a particularly new thing, but hey, it's something that the Americans don't need, so because French is not prevalent there, so why the hell should they do it for anyone else? Remove that cost. It's a barrier to doing business. Yeah, sorry, but we're an officially bilingual country. And if you want to sell your product from coast to coast to coast, yes, your products are going to have to be labeled in both official languages in Canada if you want to do business in Canada. That's just the way it is. That's another red line, right? So there are things that we say, hey, listen, we're going into negotiations, but these things are not on the table. All the other stuff, let's have at it. So this bill is intended to do that with regard to supply management. However, like I said, Hoekstra seems to have a cavalier attitude. Well, laws are just things that leaders can get around if they really want to. So there's an interview here on CBC with the Bloc Québécois agriculture critic Yves Perron. And there's some interesting information in this for you. And again, like Tom Lukasik, no hyperbole, no grandstanding, just some straightforward presentation of facts and concerns. And this is where the digital services tax was something that could be quickly jettisoned, and the prime minister is framing it as, well, it's a, it's something that we knew we were going to have to do anyway, right? So we've just done it. The fact that he responded, Trump said it, and he responded so quickly rather than letting a week go by or letting him, stew a little bit. A lot of people are fearing that will give Americans more confidence when it comes to coming for supply management. Well, if I said the digital service tax has to go and 3 days later it went, well then, hey, like, how many days will it take us to get rid of supply management? So that's the kind of thinking behind there. And we've had some people like a former minister in the Chrétien cabinet, Lloyd Axworthy, running to a microphone and saying, having some very harsh words for Prime Minister Mark Carney, though with the caveat, he is not in the room and doesn't really know everything that's going on, only working from impressions based on what's being put out there. And most of the content that's being put out there is being put out there by the Americans because Canadians are remaining tight-lipped. So let's take a listen to this interview with Bloc Québécois agriculture critic Yves Perron and to get a little bit more of an idea of what's at stake. Because in this particular case, if Mark Carney is to go back on his word with regard to supply management, given all the assurances, given just the recent passing of C202, and also the fact that a lot of his support to getting very close to that majority came from the province of Quebec, and that a lot of his core team is from Quebec, right? André Bachand, his chief of staff, is the person, I can't remember his name off the top of my head. That's so terrible. Michael Sabia, the clerk of the Privy Council, was working from Hydro-Québec. He's got Mélanie Joly in his core group. He's got François-Philippe Champagne in his core group. And he's got Dominique Leblanc, who, though he's not from Quebec, he's from New Brunswick, still a Francophone first. So appealing to Quebec specifically, and that's, where a core group of his support is not something that he can, he gained a lot of political capital, let's put it that way. And to gain that political capital and then do something that would put supply management in any way on the table, especially after this bill has passed, cannot result in anything else, right, than support for him dropping there. And you have Yves-François Blanchet, ever the opportunist, right, just rubbing his hands together and itching for the opportunity to have a summer of protests against this federal government for having sacrificed in any way supply management. Because if anything is given, he's just going to point to it and go, see, I told you all you couldn't trust him. So this one will be a stickier situation for Mark Carney than the digital services tax. Let's look at the interview. I'm just going to make sure that I got things lined up for you, kids and cubs. There you go. Well, computer's working a little better now. Yay.
Leveraged trade talks to get Canada to back off the digital services tax, and now his sights might be set on a bigger fish, or is it a cow? Trump has long complained about the system in place to protect Canada's dairy industry, known as supply management. A bill passed just last month that stops the system from being used as a bargaining chip in trade negotiations. But U.S. Ambassador to Canada Pete Hoekstra told Power and Politics he doesn't see that legislation as an obstacle in trade talks.
I have a strong belief that if we negotiated a trade, that if the Prime Minister and the President got to a trade agreement, okay, and for whatever reason it included something that Parliament said you can't do that the Prime Minister probably could find a way to get Parliament to do its will. Prime Ministers and Presidents, they've got a tremendous amount of power.
Okay. Again, right? You see that attitude towards the law? Right? If there's a law and Parliament has said that you can't do that, I'm sure he can find a way around that. He's got a lot of power. Prime Ministers don't have the same type of power that presidents do. This is a man that is incredibly uninformed about how the Canadian system works, which makes him a very odd choice for ambassador. But anyway, let's continue.
Now, that legislation was put forward by the Bloc Québécois. I'm joined now by the party's agriculture critic, Yves Perron. Bonjour, Monsieur Perron.
Bonjour.
Listen, Donald Trump is in Iowa tonight. He has said he will be talking about his trade agenda as it relates to farmers. Sounds like another chance for him to weigh in on his complaints about Canadian dairy. I wonder how worried you are by Trump's attention.
Well, I'm not that worried, but a little bit more. I will allow you that since Prime Minister Carney caved this fast on the digital service taxes. Yeah. But, we did the bill because we want to eliminate the false promises made by politicians that were always promising we will protect supply management, and then they go behind closed door and they come back and they say, well, we are successful, we protect the supply management system, but we have to give away 100% and 100% because the supply management system is a balance and we need to control what is coming from the outside to keep the system working. And the system will collapse if we give more. That's why we put forward this bill, and we strongly believe in it. We worked very hard for almost 6 years now, and we are finally successful with 100% of the member of parliament giving their vote for it. Mm-hmm. So it will be very difficult for Mr. Carney to change this bill so fast, even if he wants to keep again. But with the interlocutor as Mr. Trump, he always wants more. And when you face an intimidator like him, you have to stand up sometime.
I think it is interesting for us to explore the extent to which that legislation makes this ironclad. I mean, you talked about eliminating, which is a very strong word, the ability to use this as a bargaining chip. I saw one trade lawyer who I suppose does accept your premise that it is does bind the government's hand, saying that the law forces Canada to negotiate with one hand tied behind its back. What do you say to that characterization?
The law is simply putting a priority on the table of the negotiator and telling them, this, you don't touch that. It's not the question of tightening the hands or not. We hear that kind of argument a lot of times during the last 6 years. And we have to remember that, okay, they gave away supply management part of market in the 3 last free agreement negotiation. But before that, there's been 12 negotiations? We made 12 times a deal without giving away our people. And the system is working well. So if we want to give it away, let's be honest with them and pay them the value of this system. Actually, what the government were doing before we put forward this bill, that they were killing the system slowly.
Killing the system?
Yes, killing the system, because in the milk production, this is the worst sector. At the end, when all the percentage of market will be occupied by stranger produce, it's going to be 18%, Ms. Cullen. 18%, it's like 1 pint of milk out of 5.
By foreign production, you're saying?
Yes. Okay. So 18% of the production. So when our producers will take the decision to reduce the production from 1 pint of milk, they cannot do it on 5. They will have to do it on 4. So just explaining that is showing the importance of the the fragility of the system. So we need to protect it. That's all.
Well,
so we negotiate on other basis. That's all.
So to dig in, though, on that point, I mean, you heard a moment ago the U.S. ambassador saying, listen, if they really want to work around this, they can. The same day that we had him on, we also heard from the Liberals' Quebec Lieutenant, Minister of Canadian Identity, Stephen Guilbeault. And this is what he had to say about the suggestion that there's actually much more flexibility there for the Prime Minister than we might think.
I respectfully disagree with the ambassador's assessment. This is important not just for Quebec, it's important for many parts of the country, and we will stand by it. The Prime Minister has been very clear that supply management is not on a negotiating table.
And certainly it did come up during the campaign. The Prime Minister made pronouncements on that front. Does that reassure you?
Well, I'm sure happy to hear that from my friend Stephen, but you know, let's be honest, one with each other. Every government always can modify or change any laws, except the Constitution, because in Canada it's impossible. But all others, we can always change them. What we change in putting that in the law is that the government will want to change it, will have to pay the political price of doing it, instead of being hypocrite and promise to protect and come back and say, well, I had to give 2%. That's the whole point. So I understand what the ambassador is saying, and well, I don't agree with him neither, but it's always possible for every government to change law, but putting it in the law give us protection, because no government will want to pay the political price of a concession on supply management. That's the point.
Before I let you go, I mean, you speak to this point of the political price. We know it is a powerful issue in Quebec, and certainly there are dairy farmers in British Columbia as well. But beyond those communities, I'm trying to think of someone somewhere else in Canada who right now is listening to this and says, we need to deal with the Americans. Why is this sector being privileged? Why should we say, oh my goodness, we must stay away from this, even if it's at the cost of perhaps a better deal for Canadians?
A lot of things in your last sentence. Yeah. First, it's not only in Quebec.
Yes. British Columbia as well. Yeah.
You know, I made a lot of manifestation on the Hill, and I had people from Northwest Territory that were producers, and from people from BC, from Alberta, from everywhere. Mm-hmm. So this is not only a Quebec bill. Yes, I am a Bloc Québécois member. We work first for Quebec, but why shouldn't we be able to work for Quebec and Canada at the same time? We are happy for Canada at that time, you know? So this is one thing. The other, when people are saying this is, they have favoritism, there is favoritism before supply management system. This is not favoritism. This is a different system. They choose 50 years ago that they won't do any exportation. They will control the market, control the price, and the price is fair because it's based on the average cost of productions. Mm-hmm. So it's giving stability in our region, and it's giving us the possibility to keep family farm. You know how many cows there is in American farm? Some say 10,000 and more, 100,000, 50,000 on the same site. It's not the same thing. We're talking about something very different. They throw away more milk in Wisconsin than compared to all that we produce in Canada in 1 year. There are two different farms in the United States that can sell all the eggs we need in 1 year in Canada. Only one farm. Mm-hmm. So just imagine what happened when avian flu get in there. We have a lot of advantage, and the supply management system is giving stability not only for supply management, but also for other sectors, because it gives stability to all the economic system around them.
Okay, I'm sorry to interject, but we are out of time. I do appreciate your time though today. Thank you very much for coming on the program. It's nice to speak with you. Bloc Québécois agriculture critic Yves Perron.
There you have it, kits and cubs. really interesting points he's making here, right? Um, with the various little slicing and slicing and slicing off on supply management. There's 18% of the market now that is been given up over time. There is, as you mentioned, farms in the United States that are so big that one farm alone could supply all the eggs that Canada needs, could just flood the market. But what happens if avian flu hits that farm then? We talked about that a little bit in the days, I think, of COVID, when we were talking about the, I can't only think of the word in French now, the abattoirs, the slaughterhouses for beef, and various meats. When each region had one, you could send things. And if something was happening at one, for example, there was a BSE scare in some area that and one had to be shut down. Well, you can send the beef to another one, and a little bit of built-in redundancy sometimes serves you, especially when you have these types of illnesses and conditions that are spreading throughout the animal population and your food, and by extension your food supply. So there's more to consider than just trade, right? One of the reasons the price of eggs went so high in the United States is because of all the birds that had to be culled. So sometimes concentrating all of your business in one location can yield some benefits, but often, as in life, too much is like not enough. Too much concentration, when something happens to that business, production goes offline for whatever reason, then all of a sudden there's a huge shock to the system, the overall system. And when there's a shock to the supply, then there's a price that comes with price shocks, right? So these are all things that you also want to avoid when you're planning an economy, right? It's not just the most efficient thing to the exclusion of everything else. You need to have some guardrails and some fail safes because things do go wrong. We saw that at the beginning of COVID, when the vaccines, at the beginning when COVID vaccines were coming out, right? We were getting a supply in one spot, and then realized, I think it was in Belgium, and then they realized that they needed to increase their ability to produce, so the line had to go off. The production line had to go offline for 2 to 3 weeks while they retooled for higher capacity. And it was just right at the beginning, right? We were the first to get some vaccines, and then our supply kind of stopped. And that's when you had Michelle Rempel saying, "Oh my God, we won't get supplies of vaccines like till 2035 or something like that." And of course, it was just 2 3 weeks, and then things came back online, and we were good again. But there was a shock, right? And that was in an emergency when there was a need and high demand and people wanted it. So these types of things can happen as well when it comes with food supply. And when we're talking about things like medications and food, right? Things that people need to stay alive, you can't mess around with that. You need absolutely some built-in redundancy. If you don't have it, it's irresponsible. So why would we as a nation want to put ourselves at the mercy of having our entire egg industry wiped out because it can be supplied by one American producer, and run the risk of that one production site going down? It just doesn't make sense that we would put ourselves in that position. It doesn't make sense. So, kids and cubs, said this could be a stickier situation for the prime minister, because if the United States really, really, really insists on it, and claims that there's going to be no deal on it, that who knows what happens from that point on. I would, if one were to assume something, and if Mark Carney was clever, well, when Pierre Poilievre was stating, he should when he gave away the digital services tax, he should have gotten, things, duties removed off softwood lumber. Maybe what he got in that instance was saying, okay, you want us to remove the digital services tax? We know that supply management is one of your big irritants. So we trade that for that. Maybe that was what went on in the trade negotiation, but we don't know because our prime minister is doing the correct thing, not negotiating in public, not chasing clicks, not needing a win somewhere along the way that they can run to their base and crow about because they're not going to get 90 deals in 90 days. Just saying. We don't know. So there's a lot of people trying to fill in blanks with what they wish, want, or need to be true for their next part of their narrative to be able to go forward. But a lot of these people are commenting without knowledge of the facts. Only the people in the room know the facts at the moment. And yes, while it is concerning in some spaces that it seems that the negotiations seem to have really gone one-on-one personal between the Prime Minister and the President of the United States, and we don't know how much role the teams are actually playing, and therefore there is a need for greater transparency in certain areas. If that's the result, if that's the actual dynamic that's going on, you still want to be sure that you're not putting cards face up on the table during a negotiation. All right, kids and cubs, that's all that we have for this episode of the Daily Beaver Morning Show. We hope that you loved listening to us because we love making this for you. Remember that sharing is caring and word of mouth is priceless. So please tell your peeps and poops all about us. We really appreciate it when you do, especially when you share our content with a little few words of yours, explaining why it is you support it or why it is you appreciate it or how you agree with it or don't agree with it as well, right? But anything that you do when you add a little bit of something of yours, it helps us. So thank you for that. If you would like to help us in other ways, kids and cubs, well then, hey, maybe you want to slide on down to the True North Eager Beaver Media Incorporated YouTube page at the beckoning of Kits Elaine and Kits Cassie, and sign up to that and join the 19,000 who already have, or click on our buttons like, share, and subscribe. It helps us with the algorithm when you do. And because I did things in a totally different order than I normally do today, if you would like to make sure that you do not miss an episode, you don't have to. Thanks to the generous support of the Ray Girl, who sponsors our pod page, podpage.com/the-true-north-eager-beaver with a hyphen between each one of those words. And when you go there and click subscribe, when we have something fresh off the bandwidth, it comes directly to you. Did that rather smoothly, eh? Because while I was doing the YouTube thing in my head, I'm going, oh my God, I forgot to mention pod page. Okay, that's okay. I'll just slide it in after. There you go. There are no problems. There are only solutions here at the Beaver Lodge. And of course, if you listen to our podcasts and have the ability to give stars and reviews, please do so, kids and cubs, because that too helps us with the algorithm. If you would like to help us in other ways, kids and cubs, because we do incur some costs to bring this show to you, if you would like to help us with those, particularly in the summer months, because as you know, a lot of shows go offline and take a summer break, but we keep on producing some new content for you, especially those of you who like politics, so that you don't have to go without your fix during the course of the summer. So as being one of the only national programs that keeps on producing new content and full shows during the course of the summer, perhaps you would like to offer us a little support and encouragement with doing that. And you can do that by going to our coffee page, ko-fi.com/eagerbeaver, all in one word. And if you go there, you can make a donation to the Emergency Beaver Lodge, well, the Beaver Lodge Emergency Hydration Fund, where you can do your part to fight the scourge that is dry beaver. A dry beaver is a very unhappy beaver, but a moist beaver is extremely happy and frisky. So please, if you would like to keep your beaver moist, a little coinage in our tip jar, especially when it hits the bottom, makes that lovely sound, brings us so much joy and happiness. Thank you for your generous contributions. We really appreciate it. Everything goes back into the show. Now, if you would like to make sure that your transaction is 100% Canadian, especially after seeing Ambassador Fuckface on your screen, well, we have a solution for that too. A direct transfer from your email to ours. truenortheagerbeaver@gmail.com is our address. If you send us a little something that way, not only do we get 100% of your donation, but you avoid the CE Tech Bros, the ones that got us to ditch the digital service tax. So maybe you want to stick it to them a little bit by donating to us, by not using PayPal, but going direct to direct. 100% Canadian transaction, and we get 100% of your support. Thank you so much for everything that you do. Now, kids and cubs, because democracy is something that you do keep your eyes peeled for Mr. Lukasik's Forever Canadian campaign as it keeps growing. And he will definitely need your support, particularly if you're in Alberta. Please add your name to the signatures. Also, add your name to the signatures for those who want to create the Alberta PC Party. That would definitely be helpful and help have more democratic options in Alberta. Thank you for doing that and doing your little bit to keep democracy going in your own way. Words of wisdom, kids and cubs. Hey, it's the weekend. Let your hair down. Have some fun. Get some rest. And why not treat yourself? Do something nice for yourself this weekend. A little self-care, a little nurturing for the soul, so that you can come back on Monday feeling refreshed, happy, and fulfilled. All right. Let's see. What else do we have? I guess that's it today. Kids and cubs, it could be a tough world out there. So please be kind to and gentle with yourself. And you know what, kids and cubs? I have been promising it all week, and I do have some extra content. So I think today I am going to do a bonus Beaver Day. So I'm going to take an hour break when we sign off, and then I will come back. So let's say 10:15 Eastern time. And then adjust that for whatever time zone it is. And I'll come back with a little extra episode because I have some extra Canada Day stuff and a couple of other things that I'd like to bring to you before we enter next week. So there we go. Double Beaver today. All right, kids and cubs, it's time for the audience participation. Please, with all your voices together, say, Mr. Beaver, please cue the cock. In 3, 2, 1. Oh, yes. You are listening to a True North Eager Beaver Media Incorporated podcast. The True North Eager Beaver podcasts are proudly brought to you by our founding sponsors, the Misfit Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, your source for science fiction, fantasy, and cozy mysteries featuring a broad diversity of characters. CanadianTarot.com, their uniquely Canadian online eclectic tarot community. And the Peppermaster, hot pepper sauces made from farm-fresh ingredients to thrill your taste buds and expand your mind. We are grateful to the Crier Media Network for its support, Pete Jarvis for our artwork, and Paul Joseph Something for our opening and closing sequence music. All right, kids and cubs, since we've been talking about dairy, we have to have an Easter egg for you, right? This is courtesy of Kit Uncover, who sent this to the DMs during the show. It's an interesting moment. The United States brought to us here by Midas Touch. I'll just put this on full screen and what? Did y'all see what I just saw? Okay. For those of you who are listening at home, it seems that during a vote going on in the United States, there is a person who is on the floor who is walking to the front and decided to play a little grab ass on somebody else who was there. Some man on man grab ass. Yeah, we just saw that. Don't know if there'll be any consequences. I hope there is, because that's not okay. But yeah, that was weird. All right. Really weird. All right. I'm off for now. Amour et bisous. And yes, in 1 hour, about 1 hour and 4 minutes exactly, 10:15 Eastern Time, we'll be back for some bonus beaver. All right. We'll see you then. Amour et bisous.